Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the No Gen podcast. My name is Jonah.
And I'm Mason.
And this is our first episode. So this episode is just going to be kind of a explanation of what this podcast is going to be. We're going to go
of concept, really.
Yeah, this is just like the intro paragraph.
If this podcast ends in a gunfight, that's when you know we're not going to continue it.
This is gonna be our introduction paragraph, and we'll get on to the body of the essay in later episodes. But we're just gonna go over a few things, just some housekeeping stuff. I'm really excited to be finally recording this. We've been talking about doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. It's been kind of hell until like a couple weeks ago when we just had an epiphany, and it.
Yeah, no, that was a nightmare to say the least. I mean.
We'll get more into that as we go on, but we're both happy to be here. Yeah, I'm not good at transitions at all.
There's no reason to edit it.
It's just, I just have bullet points, so I guess we'll just go through the bullet points. So, I guess we'll go through first. Who are we? Who are any of us?
Do you want to go first, or?
I can go first. Like I said, I'm Jonah. I'm sure most of you listening right now are gonna know who I am. Purely because with the first episode, I'm sure most of the audience is going to be people who heard about this from me.
Probably.
And from me just whoring my name out there.
No. My audience is a bunch of 3-year-olds. I mean, whether I like it or not.
Yeah. But I'm a YouTuber, and put YouTuber in big air quotes around that. Because I don't think you can consider yourself a YouTuber when you don't make any money off of YouTube.
I think so too. Unless you upload daily. I would that's when I would say, like, if you make no money but you upload daily, I'd say you're a YouTuber.
Okay. I don't mean either of those criteria.
I knew.
Yeah. I upload monthly.
Yeah.
Like when I have a video.
That was me.
But yeah, I'm a person who does YouTube. I've been doing YouTube. Oh, excuse me. I've been doing. Wow, everything's falling apart.
It is already. What are 5 minutes in?
5 minutes in. I've been doing YouTube for about four-ish years, almost 5 coming up, I think. But yeah, and I'm a college student. I study film, which means I'm never gonna have a job. So this whole YouTube podcast Twitch thing really needs to work out for me, or else I'm just fucked.
That's how it is.
Do you want to say who you are?
Okay. Do you want to plug your Twitch or no?
No.
That's pretty funny.
We'll do that at the end with the whole wrap up. We'll both plug all our shit.
So, I'm Mason. My channel's JD and Blackout, where recently I've gotten a good streak going of posting videos, but it's been a wasteland for the past few years. Not to dive too much into it, I can't, my content is so varied. Lately I've been streaming on Twitch, making edits and highlights, stuff like that, going to school, doing IT work, and not to get into a bunch of personal stuff, but that's pretty much it. Other than, I was born in 1998.
Well, that's actually kind of pertinent.
Oh, there you go.
Later on, that'll become pertinent. Can you stop dropping shit loudly on the table, please?
I got a quart of water with maybe 5 ounces, and then I got a 16 ounce with maybe 10 ounces, both of water. I just got to drink out of both of them.
Why don't you just combine them?
No.
Do the big bunny move of pouring the 10 ounces into the big bottle so we have 15 ounces in the quart?
But then I only have 1 water when I can have 2 water and 1 coffee. Now I got 1 water.
You have coffee. 3 drinks. I'm just over here with a singular can of Bang.
Yeah, not making any noise at all.
Yeah, I'm being so quiet. I'm setting it down gently on the table so you can't hear it.
Meanwhile,
and you're just over here let's go.
No. My caffeine, legit, my hand's shaking so badly. Just trying not to spill it.
Just you and your Coke addiction over here.
Basically.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yes, that's who we are, and we've been wanting to start a podcast for a very long time. I remember us talking about starting a podcast when we were 15, which would have been a massive mistake had we done that.
Yeah, actually, this technically isn't the first podcast I've started, but that one, though.
That's right. Do you want to talk about your past experiences with podcasting?
That one, it was good because we had a lot of people, but the issue was mainly that like it was a gimmick podcast, and then there was so many technical difficulties. Like the other people we were doing it with, they didn't want to use their real names, but they also didn't want to use like their channel names because their channel names weren't very I think we're just easy to say. Like, you don't just look at a person and be like, oh, that's so and so.
Yeah.
And so we all had nicknames, and it was just kind of like, it was a chore in some ways, and it kind of just ended up dying off, you know.
What was it called? Where can people find it? Because I know it's still out there. I know it's still on YouTube.
It is still out there. I'm thinking. I know the name. Do I want to?
I know the name. I just wanted you to say the name. How do I know the name of your old podcast and you don't?
No, I know the name. It's like, do I really want to send people that way to go find cringe?
I think you should. Dude,
fine.
That could be one of our podcast episodes. We just react to your old podcast.
You can react to my old Minecraft YouTubes. Like
that's right.
That
you
would be
Minecraft
better.
YouTube
That'd be better
too.
See. I've been technically doing this since like 2016, I think.
No, way longer than that, because I started in 2016. I started my first original YouTube channel, PC Gaming, with lovely Emma. I started that August of 2016. And good God, was that a shit show. That was such a terrible channel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I made my YouTube account in 2013, but let me check real quick to see when the Minecraft channel was made. And I'll actually plug that. That's
Miners Workshop.
Miners Workshop. I remember the podcast.
You guys had like an animated intro and everything. I was low-key impressed.
Blind Hermit was like a god in terms of like graphic design and stuff. We still got 49 subs, which is nice. That was June of 2013. So I guess I've been uploading since 2013. That's actually I got street cred, dude. I got 7 years.
7 years, dude.
Of no subscribers and terrible views. And
that
Minecraft.
Was 2013 pre-Apocalypse? Or was Apocalypse 2010 or 2012? Because Apocalypse was fairly recent.
No, I think you're right.
It was definitely this decade, or this past decade.
I think so. Sorry, I just want to go through. I'm looking at my channel now, or my old channel.
Wow, looking at your YouTube channel is going to be thrilling content for this vocal podcast.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just wanted to see the most popular video. I think all we got was like 2K on a video.
That's more. How the do you even in your
we got 2.2K on Andalusian's video. Actually, and then another one with 1.6K.
How do you have two videos that both have more views than my most viewed video on your old throwaway channel that you don't even upload on anymore?
Oh, dude, this is like, here, let me see that.
That's so unfair.
Those were uploaded 5 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's so not fair.
And throwaway is the
I hate that so much.
I'm kind of tempted just to throw something there, just to be like, hey, I still have access to this account.
Guess who's still alive? I remember the last one you did on that was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 1.
That was the last.
And you did the beach one.
Yeah. That was
the
like
beach map.
That was like the last one.
Such a good map. That's one of my favorite maps on Roller Coaster Tycoon.
That's one of my favorite games of all time. No, it is one of my favorite games of all time.
I prefer the second one.
Second one is good though. I need to play it. I've only played 1 and 3 Ultimate or whatever. The one with all the expansions.
Yeah.
That's all I've played.
I still play Roller Coaster Tycoon 3.
It's
like
I do like
weekly.
Those.
Like fairly regularly. I'll go on for like 10 minutes and be like, this is fun, and then get bored and then move on with my life.
Yeah.
The next topic I think that we should talk about, we've kind of already answered this, but will this be a family-friendly podcast?
No, I mean, like,
we've kind of already answered that because I've dropped a few.
I know.
Words
I'm just kind of like, in my mentality is like I didn't want to get into like my stance on like swearing in general, but it's more of just like I don't care.
We don't have to get that deep into it, but the reason I have that on here is because all my other social media, like my YouTube, I try to keep it as family friendly as I can.
Yeah.
Just because I know that I have, cousins who are really young who like to watch my videos.
Yeah.
And I have like grandparents and people, like family friends who will go and be like, I wonder what Jonah's up to. And I don't want them to just be like, hentai review, episode 4.
Yeah, Black Bible, let's go.
Yeah, so that's why I have this question on here.
That's definitely good. Actually, I think that's good because that's one thing is like I don't share my channels with my family because it's just like that's one of the freedoms of not doing that.
Yeah.
And then, but that being said, the Fall Guys video I'm editing right now, I'm legit like trying to censor that video, and it is the biggest chore in the world. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't.
Yeah, you got so upset when we played Fall
Dude,
Guys.
it still irks me. I do not want to play it. Like literally, if you ask me to play tonight, I'm not gonna play it.
Really?
Because I've played it since, and it's like, I mean, we streamed it not too long ago, and it's like, it's still an alright game. It's just like, it's too stressful, man. Like, I'd rather play Apex like 100%. Like,
which is so weird to me.
No, man, that game is so much more cathartic in terms of enjoyment.
That's crazy. But I mean,
Sorry.
I will say, back on topic to the family friendly question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best to keep this from turning into a Martin Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just like every 4 seconds.
Yeah. No, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. So we're not gonna have it that. But that being said, if you're listening to this with very small children,
like 2 or 3. I'm kidding.
you may not want to. You may not want to.
I mean,
especially when we start getting into talking about anime and talking about video games.
Not to mention, like,
we might enter some not safe for work territory.
Yeah, not to mention though, it's like, are you gonna really submit like a child to listen to like an hour-long podcast with 2 like 20-year-olds? Like, is that really the big brain play you're gonna make as a parent? You know, just putting that out there.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely true. So this next bullet point I'm gonna kind of skip, and we'll get on to that later because I feel like it's not as important right now. But I think the first thing we should go over now is, what is the purpose of this podcast? What is this podcast going to be? What the goal is, kind of. I think we should go over both of those first and foremost before we get on into any of the minor stuff, like how we got into this, how we went the process of creating this podcast and all of that. Because I think this is the most important thing, is what is this? Yeah, no, what are we doing?
I mean, I'm not sure on what you're thinking, but I don't think it's gonna be a very formatted podcast. It's not gonna be like the biggest problem in the universe where it's like we have like a topic we debate about or something. It's gonna be just like legit, like let's talk about this, you know, type thing. I don't think it's gonna be like all right, the great video game debate. Who likes Mario Party 3? You know, I generally, that might not be a controversial thing. I just kind of threw it anyway.
I mean, that might be pretty controversial.
I don't remember.
I don't know much about Mario Party 3.
I've not played.
Do people not like Mario Party 3?
I mean, maybe not. 6. I've played 3 actually. Damn. 6, 8, and the new one are good. There's a bunch of other ones too in the middle.
Super Mario Party is the new one.
Dude, that one's
Mario Party.
It's good. No,
I wish
good compared to 8 and 9. I mean, sorry, 9 and 10.
Yes.
9 and 10 sucks so bad.
For sure.
Okay, getting back on topic. My bad.
Yeah. So like he said, this is probably gonna be like one of the only episodes we have like a legit script for, because basically what we wanted to do with this podcast is we didn't want to put ourselves into a box where we can only talk about very specific things. Yeah. We kind of wanted to leave it open-ended and just. Open-ended is the only way I can think of describing it. That way, in the future, we can talk about anime, we can talk about books, we can talk about science, we could talk about probably not politics.
But I mean, probably still like topical things, just not. Politics.
Yeah, like when something comes up, we might have like a crazy news of the week segment that we do every now and then, where it's just like, here's some weird shit that happened this week.
Yeah, Roro's Electric Boogaloo type thing.
Yeah, kind of.
I realize that's so entrenched in like memes and non-speak that no one's gonna understand what that is.
That was a very.
I'm talking about Corona too, guys. That's what I was referring
to. I should probably turn my phone off. Turn my notifications off. That was a.
Well, I hope my brother makes it home safely. I don't have my phone. I don't even know. He'll just have to email me if he dies.
I mean, I don't know if YouTube would want us to talk about the coronavirus.
No, I'm just throwing stuff.
We talk about Corona Light, like the beer.
Yeah, or
I like Corona throw a lime in there in the summertime. Hell yeah, dude. It's like that's my thing. I like that. I'm into that. That's what I like.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be a very open-ended podcast in terms of like just no bottlenecks really, and especially too if like like obviously this is very forward thinking considering our channels haven't blown up. But I'm saying if we get guests and stuff, like clearly it'll just be interview the guest and just kind of like talk about random stuff. It's not going to be like, okay, we know you're specialized in this particular area. We're going to talk about stocks. It's like, you know, I feel like, you know, as a bookkeeper at a local library, I think you'd be very interested in the stock market.
Yeah. No, when we have guests, it's not even going to be more of an interview. It's going to be more of we're going to decide a topic that we like or we want to talk about, but maybe we're not the most well versed in it. So we just get on someone who is a lot more well versed on it, who can kind of shed some light on the inner workings of a fandom that we may not know too much about.
Yeah, not that
Like
sorry.
we can get.
I get really standoffish when people start mentioning fandoms.
I mean, we could get we can have a furry on. I'd be down to interview a furry. Would you be down to interview a furry?
Well, I'm down to interview one. Do I want to let one into my house? Is the better question. We'll do it outside on the patio. It'll be the first live, like, oh no, we'll do it in the forest. That's where we'll do it.
in the woods.
In their natural habitat. So
In
they
their
feel
natural
comfy. I'm
habitat.
sorry, I just alienated any possible celebrity furries. Oh wait, okay.
Are there any celebrity furries?
Nah, I was gonna.
I mean, Dan Avidan.
He's not.
He's a furry.
Okay, no.
Dan is a furry.
Anyway, we're not going to debate the definition of a furry right now.
No, we're gonna debate. No, you're right. That's for another episode.
Like, yeah.
Totally for another episode. But yeah, so that's gonna be the future stuff we're gonna be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get in a bit to the purpose of this podcast, kind of what our angle is and what differentiates, and also explain the name No Gen Podcast.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah, so basically the thought process behind that is Mason and I are in a very unique situation in regards to the generations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the who, my generation, it's a bit complicated because we were born in the late 90s after the cutoff for millennials, because millennials technically ended in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but also we're not quite Zoomers either. So we're what's technically called cuspers, which is that we don't really belong to either generation. We're not really millennials.
Yeah.
We have some millennial influences. We also have some Zoomer influences. Like we grew...
Oh wait, no, more Zoomer.
yeah. We grew up in a time where like the internet was kind of mainstream, but we can also still remember a time like before Facebook. I can remember a time before YouTube, before social media.
That was a big change.
I remember when we first got our first laptop. We moved on from the big... I remember, Windows 98.
Dude, some of the best freaking OSs out there, man.
So
98
good.
and XP, man.
So good. I remember our first DVD player. That was weird.
Whoa.
Because we had a VHS player.
Yeah.
DVD players came out in the late 90s.
I'm trying to remember when we got ours. But I remember we had a VHS player for the longest time.
Because we got ours, I think, late, kind of after... Because we didn't get ours when DVDs first came out. We got ours a little bit afterwards. But I remember it was like 2002, I want to say. And I remember it was so weird being able to pause the movie and then just rewind it a bit. And it was also super weird having it just restart automatically without having to like unwind the VHS.
See, I don't think...
Dude.
Yeah. No, like... I mean, when at that age, I remember like my parents would rewind them. Like legit, I don't think I've had to do it unless it was much later. Unless we're talking about like cassettes and the mini VCRs. I have a bunch of them. I don't know what they're called.
Cassettes?
No. They're like video cassette. No, that's actually a thing too. No, they're basically like VHS tapes, but they're compact. Probably VHS-C, I imagine.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, that's thrilling. I'm thrilled by this. Go on. Talk longer about this.
No, I genuinely, I don't know when I got a DVD player, but yeah, definitely that middle ground. Yeah. Like before social media, that was a big thing. Like, that was like literally like in my mind. I remember Yahoo being that was when Yahoo was in like Yahoo and Alibaba. And like,
dude, Alibaba.
Those are pretty like those were big players back then.
Yeah.
And obviously like eBay was on the rise and a bunch of other stuff too. But obviously I got to remember my like 4-year-old, 5-year-old brain. Like, okay.
I remember when Netflix first came out, and it was before Netflix was streaming. It was back when Netflix was just you got a DVD
in the mail.
And you got to keep it as long as you wanted, and then you just mailed it back, and they sent you the next DVD. And you had like a queue of DVDs you listed. Dude, that was so whack.
I remember when like we were doing that, and then we had ordered the Wii Netflix disc. You put the disc inside your Wii, and that allows you to stream movies onto there. Dude, the Wii was like legit. I know it's like one of the best selling consoles of all time, and everybody's played it, but the Wii legit is like one of my favorite consoles.
Dude, it's so good.
Like, I have so much nostalgia.
There's so many
that.
good games on the Wii too.
Yeah,
like,
no. I just like the music, dude. The menus, the sound, like Wii Sports, dude. It's so good.
Dude, Wii Sports. Jeez.
I mean, that's definitely more Zoomer territory, but even still, it's so good.
But I mean, I remember the Game Boy, which is more millennial territory.
Yeah, no, I got too many Game Boys.
I had a Game Boy Color and I had a Game Boy Advance.
I didn't get a game. I was really late on handhelds. I got a SP way late. Like the PSP, not even the first generation PSP came out. I think it was like the second gen PSP. That's when I got a Game Boy Advance SP. But I mean, to be fair, I had a Wii and like a GameCube and a Xbox original, and I think that's all I had at that point. But yeah, where do we go from here?
Well, all of this was just to say, it was just proof that we were cuspers. So
where my street cred.
So what we've noticed is that every podcast that's like the millennial perspective on blank or the Zoomer perspective on blank, there's not a lot of representation just in general for cuspers, for the divergence of the generations, or I guess it'd be factionless. Are cuspers more? That's the question of the week. Are cuspers more like factionless, or are they more like divergence? To use teen YA terms.
Oh yeah, gotcha. Sorry, I've like annexed that part of like my mind. Like I mean,
we'll definitely be doing a podcast episode on dystopian YA novels for sure, because those were so big. But that's completely irrelevant.
They were really big.
So there's not a lot of representation for cuspers. So we thought it'd be interesting to kind of start a podcast that's on a wide range of topics, mostly pop culture stuff, but from the perspective of people who aren't millennials, but who also aren't Zoomers, who kind of have a best of both worlds Hannah Montana thing kind of going on as far as generations go. So that is kind of the purpose of this podcast, and that is why it's called the No Gen Podcast, because we do not belong to any one generation. So hence No Gen. And that is not the first title we've had.
No.
We've gone through a few titles.
Well,
some of which were okay, some of which weren't, and we'll get more into the past titles when we start talking about how we came to create this podcast.
Okay.
But we won't go into that super much right now. But we talked about future podcasts, we talked about guests, we talked about rotating hosts is another thing we need to talk about. So as far as the main host goes, it's going to change every week depending on what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it might be one of those things where it's like the Trash Taste podcast where it's like, yeah, there are rotating hosts, but Giguk leads it every week. just literally
Giguk ends up just taking it.
Yeah. But no, it's fine. Like I said, I've just basically I've just gotten so complacent in like not doing the whole like, oh, here we go, guys. We're gonna be playing a video game. Let's go. Like, legit, my energy is completely dead to that. It's like, okay, you're gonna watch or not. Like that's basically, and like, yeah, it sounds very entitled. Like you where's my free streamer money at?
You want to go?
Where's my super chats?
Oh no!
But it's more of just like, it's just not worth it. To go back onto the hosts, yeah, I'm fine with whoever hosts or whatever. I feel like guests should not host. I feel like obviously not.
Guests are guests.
I feel like that would be a poor branding decision.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, Elon Musk is hosting this episode. Like,
dude,
what the heck?
No, if we had Elon Musk as a guest, he would host. He's the only guest I would let host.
I know. I'm being
Elon Musk and Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
I'd let Gordon Ramsay.
Dude,
host.
Gordon Ramsay, man, he's a legend, man.
Dude,
there's so many memes and stuff, but he's so good.
Gordon Ramsay is a full-on G. He's a full G.
So yeah, what's after that? I mean, we got
next on the docket. I have what is our ideal situation for the podcast? Like, what's the pipe dream of this podcast?
Okay, well, I think I'll go first because I think mine might be smaller. But basically, let's say like if this does take off a little bit, basically just be something to do like every weekend or so. It'd just be like, record for a few hours and throw it up on the weekend. Like, because I still have a lot going on, and I still want to focus on all my main channel stuff. So it's like if I can just do a podcast and if people like it, then that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, like, my ideal goal, pipe dream, is also if people enjoy it. That's like at the end of the day, if people enjoy it, that's really like my main goal is to make something that people enjoy. Like I never got into YouTube to make money or Twitch to make money, even though like it'd be really nice to be able to make money off of YouTube. That was never like the end goal for me. The end goal for me was I just want to entertain people. I want people to come have a good time and then go on with their lives. And that's kind of the main thing I wanted. And with this, I mean, the ideal goal for this would just be able to get monetized and maybe have some sponsors and be able to make money off of this. Because if I can make money off of this podcast, then that's incentive to keep doing it. But I can also funnel that in to my YouTube channel, to my Twitch, and
it helps spread the money through it. So that way, if one doesn't do as well, like if it's like let's say your YouTube channel is not making much money as compared to your Twitch or your podcast, it kind of levels it. You're diversifying your income. It's what we'd call it.
Yeah, basically diversification. And just my dream is just to have a single sponsor because I have so many. I want to do like Game Grumps and Internet Historian style ads where it's just like super high, like it's not just the plug in the middle of the thing. Like I put effort into the ad and try to make it entertaining. Like Game Grumps and Internet Historian, I think, have the best sponsorship ads in their videos.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're so good, and like I want to be able to do that, but I need a sponsor to be able to do
NordVPN, like seriously, like you're like number one on the docket.
NordVPN.
Because I use your product. Like please, I'd be so disheartened if ExpressVPN's like, hey, and I'm like, I don't want to switch, but I want money.
Don't say that. What if ExpressVPN is watching? But what if they're listening?
I feel like that's incentive. If ExpressVPN listens, then I will email Nord and be like, hey, these guys want a sponsorship. Like what's your offer? $5 per episode? I'll take it.
My ideal sponsor would be Honey because I use Honey.
Honey's so good, dude.
I've saved so much money by using Honey.
Dude, like legit, $20 off the PewDiePie chair. I still can't believe that. How does that happen?
I love how us talking about getting sponsor has low-key turned into an ad segment for people who don't
Shut up, brand. Silence, brand.
Or Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll's the other one that I would love.
Yeah,
I would love a Crunchyroll sponsorship.
I'd be okay with that because I'm pretty sure I'd get a free account, which would be all right.
Yeah.
And obviously there's other brands, but I mean, we're just selling out on day one. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we've already sold out, guys.
That's legit it.
Keep your expectations low. If you're expecting this to be a podcast, people are like, yeah, they're great. They're not sellouts. No,
immediately.
We'll sell out so quick.
I won't sell out the YouTube channel. That's the one thing I won't sell out on.
Yeah, if I can sell out on the podcast and make money off of that, then that means I won't have to sell out with my YouTube channel, and that'd be nice.
That would be good.
Okay. Next, let's go down to kind of how we got into podcasting. Go through some of the
we did touch
previous attempts at podcasts that we had, and then also going through kind of some of our proof of concept stuff that kind of led us to be like, hey, this could work. We could do this. I'll say the first previous attempt. Do you remember back when we were 15? We wanted to start a podcast with you, me, and Emma when you still lived in your old house. And I remember we made a logo, and it was the Japanese kanji for conversation, and it had like a collage of anime, movies, bands, and books in each of the four. Do you remember any of this?
Wait. I'm starting to remember the collage, but the kanji I don't remember at all.
I think I still have the logo
because I remember like the one thing that stood out to me is that you had the band The Killers on it.
Yes.
Then that's the only thing I remember. Because like, oh yeah, I like that band. I'm only 15. I mean, their first album was good. But I'm pretty sure that's the band that Sea Dog VA was referencing about his hometown. I'm pretty sure. Like there was a part. I mean, this is such an obscure freaking reference to a random part in a podcast. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I feel like that's the icon. But other than that, I really don't remember. Like I there's not a pinpoint where like, hey, we should do a podcast. I feel like.
No, it definitely happened. We definitely did it. And then we did it again like a couple years ago. We were talking. We didn't really do anything. We just talked about doing it with Emma, like over Skype or over.
Yeah, no, I do actually remember that.
But that was more recent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those have been, and none of those really worked out. And I'm actually really glad none of them worked out, because especially the one when we were 15, that would have been so cringy and so bad. And I'm so glad we were kind of spared from having to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I'm 21 right now. That my first podcast was, let's see how, I think it was
we were still in high school
3 years ago. So okay, that was like 18.
It was it was like late high school.
Yeah,
for sure.
But
dang, it would have been so bad. Either way, it would have been so bad. And then kind of I can't think. Our kind of proof of concepts that we've done, which would be our gaming series that we did on my channel.
Mm-hmm. And you've gone through many iterations of different gaming setups.
Yeah, we had Gaming Through College was a series that we did on my YouTube channel for a while, and I feel like we had some good episodes in there. There's a few episodes that I go back and watch. I'm like, I'm proud of this. This was funny.
I know. It sucks that no one saw some of them.
Yeah.
Like
it's funny. Our most popular series with that was when we played The Sims 4, which was your least favorite
I hated
game to
that.
play.
I absolutely despised it.
Which,
but I mean, not so much that like I'm sure.
Like Jason Lacktrick?
Gosh, that didn't even annoy me. I think it was just The Sims is like such a hard game to play on YouTube, and then also like with two people. That is such a difficult, like, because like basically it's like customize this house, and it's like, does the customization become a committee thing, or how do you keep it interesting? And that's kind of where it becomes difficult.
Yeah, I get that.
That being said, though, I mean, oh well.
I mean, yeah. It's
dude, the tier lists, man, those got so many good views,
Oh yeah, the
dude.
tier lists we did. We also did when we kind of roasted each other's YouTube channels in a way, where we were kind of just like, hey, wouldn't this be funny if...
I feel like that would have worked better had we done it in like 2 parts, to where like they were semi-scripted, because then we could have really dug into it opposed to doing it live. Because doing it live, it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna just say like you're an idiot for doing this to your face. I mean, I can, but like,
and you have.
Yeah,
you have.
No, I have.
You have.
But it's just like doing it on camera and then having that post. It's like, whereas like if you have a script, you're like, okay, I know exactly what. And then if you get called out for it, it's like, oh, it's a bit.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're just genuinely being honest, I guess that was I kind of feel like I held back a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it's fine. You can hold back if you want to. I mean, that's
at that time when we did that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I kind of stopped giving. But.
And then most recently, we kind of had Down the Rabbit Hole, which was like that was the real proof of concept right there.
Yeah. No, I think those were good.
Because for those of you who don't know, Down the Rabbit Hole is a series that we started on my YouTube channel where literally we just think of a topic and then just open up the internet and see where it leads.
Are you going to rebrand or no?
I don't think so.
Really? Because that one guy commented on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, wait, you're not so and so. Like, there's another Down the Rabbit Hole.
Yeah.
I was curious if you were gonna rebrand it.
The thing is, I don't think I really need to, because ours is so different from that.
Oh, really?
And the logo I have is completely different.
Yeah.
So there's nothing in my videos that would suggest in any way, shape, or form that it's in any way related to that guy.
No. I mean, I guess that's fine. I just was like curious if you were just gonna be like, no, I want to be completely separate. Like,
Nah.
like it's like having the same name as somebody else.
Yeah, I don't care too much about it, to be completely honest. I mean, if that guy ever contacts us for some reason and it's like, hey, I don't want you to use this name, then I'll be like,
just change it to Ninja.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Ninja Gaming.
And I'll be totally fine with that. We'll just change it to incognito mode.
Yeah, right. Like literally the same thing.
That's basically what it is. But yeah, but that is, it's basically what this podcast is going to be, which is thinking of a topic, and then just talking about it for an hour or so and seeing where it leads us. So Down the Rabbit Hole, I think, was the real proof of concept. And both those videos came out, even the first one where we kind of screwed up the audio, and the audio was kind of shit, which was my bad. And you were in a bathroom recording it
literally
on your phone.
Yeah.
Like, even that one got like a ton of views and people enjoyed it, and I thought it was super funny.
Yeah.
So that was going back and watching those two videos, which were very similar format wise as to what this podcast is going to be. I'm like, this could work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this could work. And I think it is going to work. At least I hope it is. So that was the real proof of concept. And just that kind of evolved into a conversation of, hey, we've talked about doing a podcast before. Why don't we actually do it this time instead of just talking about doing it? Why don't we just actually go in, get it started, and see what happens?
And that was one of the things too, is that like I had recently moved, and that was one of the main goals where it's like, okay, I'm gonna like hit the ground running on YouTube, because it was just like there's no better time to do it, especially if you're in college. And then like having just moved out gives me so much more freedom to like, well, I mean, yeah, I could have done streams and all that at home, but it's like it's such a different dynamic.
Yeah.
And like if you have to be streaming and then all of a sudden like, you know, there's like, oh, dinner time, like do I really want, like, I mean, and it's not so much professionalism, it's just like you're trying your best to like make it like the best you can, and then it's like, you know, the circumstances do not make it easy.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally get that. And that was the other thing for me too, is I'm also moving out, and now I have my own apartment. So it ended up working out really well to where both of us are now living in our own places. Both of us are living in the same town. There's a fly around.
It's been bugging me. He's been alive for a little too long.
Right. And what that does is that means that we have two locations we can possibly record, his place and my place. And it also means that if we wanted to, we could record remotely, and you wouldn't hear family in the background. You wouldn't hear other people in the background, because we both live kind of in our own places. So this really seemed like the perfect time to really start this podcast and see what happens. I'm going to be super busy when school starts. Yeah. But even then, like even with being busy with school, I can probably set aside like 2 hours in a weekend to record, you know? Yeah. Like that's not going to be the biggest deal for me. So either way, it just seemed like the right time. We've been talking about doing it for a while, and it just seemed like the best time for us to do this. Yeah, definitely. So next, why we wanted to start a podcast in the first place, and kind of podcasts we drew inspiration from. There's one big thing that happened right before we started talking about starting a podcast that I think was a big influence on us. And we've mentioned it once already before. Okay.
I want to make sure I was on the same page.
And I'm gonna try to avoid mentioning it after this episode, just because I don't want to constantly compare myself to it. Yeah. But that of course is the release of the Trash Taste podcast. Yeah. Which, if you don't know, is a podcast started by Giguk the Anime Man and CDawg VA, arguably the three biggest names in AniTubing currently. Giguk especially, I think, is one of the biggest names in AniTubing of all time.
Yeah, no, definitely. Actually, you know, when Jonah had like, oh, you gotta watch Trash Taste, it's like with Giguk, the Anime Man, and some guy I've never heard of, and I was like, nah. Like, for one, like I feel like up until that point, I gotten burnt out on so many different podcasts. Like, I was really big into like the Procrastinators podcast, like kind of like midway when that was starting, and then that just kind of devolved into crap, and then. After that, it was Woody's Gamer Tag podcast, which was a pretty long-standing one, which I burnt myself out on that.
Were you ever into Podtaku?
No.
Or Potaku?
No. Well, part of the reason why is, and I was going to get into that, is that, okay, there's a lot of AniTubers that I just did not vibe with at the time, and still don't. Like for the longest time, I really didn't like, actually, to be honest, there's not a lot of, so I got to frame it well, because I know I'm going to get instant backlash, but I haven't seen a ton of videos, but I was never a really big fan of Giguk's videos.
Which surprises me so much, because I watch all of his shit, and it's so funny.
The last one I do remember watching was it was the best anime of 2017, 2017 or 18. It was when
Yeah.
Made in Abyss came out.
Okay. So in 2017, I think.
And I remember watching that one. I hadn't seen a single one since. And for the like legit, like I didn't really care much for him. And then again, didn't know who C.Va was. And the anime man, he seemed cool because he actually knew Japanese. So I was like, oh, and he collabs with PewDiePie. So I was like, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But when you go and mention this podcast, I was like, I'll watch it. But eventually I watch it, and it's like legit, like so much better than so many other podcasts I listen to. And it's like they have a very unique dynamic. I think sadly, what's nice is they have more guests lately, but I feel like the one like I feel bad for C.Va sometimes, whereas he just like there's times where he's just like, yep, I'm just gonna let them talk because I don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
But then the thing is too, he's the youngest though. He's not much older than us.
He's only a year older than me.
That's great. Wait, so he's my age?
Yeah, he's your age.
Yeah, that's what sucks.
You and C.Va are the same age.
What's also bad is that you compare me to like Mr. Beast. Like Mr. Beast is younger than me,
which is that with my head.
Yeah,
that really screws me up. To think that I'm older than Mr. Beast.
And there's a lot of new. I mean, obviously, like with the internet, it's like it's a meritocracy, and it's also a gamble. But it's like age has no meaning. Yeah. But like, there's so many up and starting, YouTubers who are younger than me. It's like, damn, really? Like, I feel like I'm already behind. But there
are others that like aren't that much older than me too. Which like David Dobrik is only like 2 years older than me.
Oh wow.
Like he's 23, I want to say, maybe 24.
That's crazy.
Which like is not that much older than me.
No, I feel like once you get past 25, that's when you really are old.
Yeah, because 23 and 24 is still in the age where like if I dated somebody who was 23 or 24, it wouldn't be that weird.
But 25.
But then once I get into 25, then it's like a
big jump.
A bit, because that's two different life stages there.
Yeah, and you can't go down because we all know that's a little too far.
Yeah. So
anyway, back to the podcast. No, really good podcast. And then that was definitely like what kicked it off.
Because they have a very similar setup to kind of what we want to do.
Yeah.
But more anime, more centered on anime and Japanese stuff. Yeah. Whereas we want to be more broad.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Sometimes talk about movies, sometimes talk about books, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I already hinted at, I want to do a YA dystopian.
Yeah, and
because there's so much to talk about.
That topic is gonna be so hard to do.
Because I was really big into that.
He was super big into it, and dude,
and you were kind of into it for a while, for like 2 years.
No. It was like literally like maybe a year in terms of like the films. I've never been big into reading.
Yeah.
I'm more into it now lately, but like legit like in school, like I legit like what is it, Spark Notes? I just legit that was me for all the books. I mean I did try and read them, but as my reading comprehension, like part of me thought I had ADHD at like a little bit.
Oh, I definitely have ADHD for sure.
But it's not. I mean, for me, it was never enough because it was just like I'm so much more interested in doing other things. Like I mean, I think that probably because I started playing video games like probably when I was like 3. Like as soon like it literally like you can walk and use your thumbs. Games. Oh, you're playing video games.
Yeah. But that's all for another.
Yeah, of course.
Episode and then I also want to do an episode about nostalgic gaming, like how we got into gaming.
That'd be fun.
Original games, but that's all irrelevant because we're still talking about just so we can move on from this. Just Trash Taste, very similar setup to this, and I'm like, hey, why don't we do that? But with instead of having the perspective of anime fans and anime YouTubers, we have the perspective of cuspers.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good segue into the last thing I kind of want to touch on. Or one of the last things, which is creating this podcast. How we first talked about it, how we came up with the name, and then the shit show that is the logo situation.
Yeah.
So starting off with the conversation about it, do you still remember the first time we talked about this? Because it was pretty great, and I kind of wish we recorded it, but
was it like when we were playing games or like?
Yeah, we were just playing Apex. And I was like, dude, wouldn't it be funny if we started a podcast? And that like turned into this whole conversation about it.
And again, I wouldn't have been open to the idea had I not have just been like, yeah, trash taste is good.
Yeah. So thank God for Trash Taste.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been a second one. I'm trying to think. I can't really think of the exact conversation. I know what happened after that.
Yeah. So the exact conversation went something along the lines of we were playing Apex. And we were talking about Trash Taste.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I've been wanting to start a podcast for so long. You're like, yeah, I'd be kind of into that. And I was like, dude, we should start a podcast. And you're like, and then we started talking about what, if we were to start a podcast, what it would be. And then we kind of realized we were both on the same page of what kind of podcast we would want to do. And then that led into coming up with the first name for this podcast, which was The Internet Generation.
Yeah.
Was the original title for this.
That was like so like there was a lot of names thrown, but that was the first one that made it past like peer review, and that was like on its way to the showroom.
That was almost the name of the podcast.
It almost
that was very close. That was way closer than any of the other names becoming the name for this podcast.
And then once we started getting into like logos and branding, that's when we kind of like
Internet Generation is a lot of letters.
It's a lot of letters, and we tried to reduce it, like, you know, doing acronyms, IG, and Gen.
Using different fonts to make it.
But
and generation is such a longer word than internet.
Yeah.
And so anytime we put the words Internet Generation in a logo, it just didn't look good.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into the logo in a second. Once we figured out the first name and kind of what we wanted to be, we're like, okay, let's do this. Let's get to brainstorming. So we started, that's when we started brainstorming logos. We started brainstorming a bunch of other stuff, topics, and what the first episode was going to be. And fast forward about 2 months.
Yeah, it was 2 months.
And we're here. So the name changed the least. Because the name only changed once. Because we had Internet Generation, and then we just changed it to No Gen Podcast.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of other ones we were considering, like just No Name Podcast.
Yeah, Unknown Podcast.
Untitled Podcast.
You had Unspecified Podcast was one you mentioned.
Gens was between two
you had like,
gens,
what was it, Edge of the Cusp or something? Like
Cusp of the Net.
I did not like
Cusp
that one at all. I hated that one.
Wow. I didn't know you felt so strongly about that. But yeah, we had a lot of different iterations for it, but then we ended up settling on No Gen Podcast.
Yeah.
And then No Gen Pod for sure.
I think part of the reason why is that
GP
I am an aesthetic elitist in the sense that, like, if I'm going to do something, it has to be like near perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but it was more of just like with the Internet Generation, like the ideas for the logo is just you run into so many problems, but there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
It's impossible to read. It doesn't convey anything about what it is. And I mean, No Gen, like, it's better. Like, it's definitely it's a leaps and bounds in terms of, like, you know, iconography.
Yeah, and it's like iconography, and then it's shorter syllables, No Gen Podcast. Like, that's rolls off the tongue, and it summarizes what makes this podcast different from other ones, which is the fact that it's from the idea of No Generation.
Yeah, and we just think that, you know, every single Pokemon generation sucks. And No Gen.
Yeah. No Gen Pokemon.
Yeah, that's a joke.
That is a joke. That was clever. I liked it.
It was not clever. It was terrible.
So the logo. You want to talk about the absolute firestorm that was coming up with the logo?
In my defense. Okay, so Jonah, he has a nice job where he can basically just like fuck off on a computer for a while.
Yeah.
Where I don't get that luxury in any of the jobs I've worked. So he always had time to go through rewrites. And when you're making logos for two people and one of them's a perfectionist who basically has no time, like, who can't put anything to the table, it's just like, no, I don't like that one. No, I don't like that one.
Yeah,
the font's not good.
So
this isn't good.
We went through about 5 concepts of what the logo would look like, and then about literally no exaggeration, about 80 variations of those 5 different concepts. And I'll probably throw up some pictures of the old concepts,
a whole collage
while we're talking about it, just so people know what we're talking about. But some of them were good, some of them were not. And finally what we decided was we were putting so much thought and effort into coming up with a logo. And what we decided was the logo can change. Having a logo, it just needs to be recognizable, and it needs to be good looking. And the logo can always change. We can always do rebrands and stuff like that. The one thing that we couldn't change was the name. We had to pick a name, and we had to run with it for as long as possible. And so then we started shifting our focus from the logo to the name.
Because we kind of realized that the old name was just such a mouthful. It's just like, even like it's not something you would go out and be like, oh, go listen to them, because it's just like it's such like it honestly it sounds like a website or like a forum post. Like it's such a massive
r/internet generation.
Yeah, it's like it just does not sound like something you'd be like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the difference between Jonah_entertainment, which is my old YouTube, and then Jonah TV, which is my new YouTube. Like the difference between those two is leaps and bounds better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once we kind of decided on the name, then literally I took the last concept for the logo that we had done before we decided that wasn't important, and then just altered it to fit the new name, sent it off to Mason. Mason was like, yeah, I like that, it looks good.
Yeah.
And then we went with that.
It was a lot better.
Yeah.
That was definitely that was like a whole 2-month process, and it was terrible because, like I said, I could barely submit anything to the table just due to time constraints and stuff. And it was just kind of like, Jonah's like, what about this one? What about this one? And just constantly vetoing it all the time. And there was so many I didn't even just bother responding. I was just kind of like, you know what? Like, at that point, it didn't seem like it was ever going to happen, because I was just kind of like, it just didn't seem. And
the hype was starting to die at that point. It was. Because the amount of time from coming up with the idea for doing a podcast and actually filming the podcast was about 2.5 months.
Yeah, no, it was a long time.
So this was about 3 weeks ago, and the hype was starting to die.
Yeah, I mean that was the problem though, is that it seems so petty, but some of those I actually genuinely hated. But anyway, was there anything else you wanted to share on that or no?
I mean, I think that's really all there is to it. And then obviously we ended up settling on what is currently our logo, which is the kind of cyberpunk question mark with the internet code on it.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
And then with the No Gen podcasting kind of like a code language. And because when you look at that, you immediately think internet.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty good.
And then No Gen, So I think it works pretty well. And like I said, worst case scenario, I mean, we're not going to be doing merch anytime soon. No. I don't think. So it really doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And we have it. And I think we're both in a place right now where I think we both like what we have right now. And now that we're actually here and actually recording the podcast, I think I'm starting to get a little more excited for future episodes when we can actually just talk about stuff we love, and it's not like the intro housekeeping episode.
Yeah.
Once we actually start getting into that, I'm going to be a lot more excited. But I'm sure once I go back and start editing this, I'm going to be like, oh, this is so great. Oh, I can't believe this is happening. Oh, I love this.
It'll just be finding time. That'll be the main thing. We got to make sure we get it down.
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, I have my own room now. You have your own room. Recording remotely is such an easy option. Honestly, I probably would have been like, hey, let's record remotely for today. But I think for the first episode, I think it would have been better for us to be face-to-face.
Yeah.
And then also, I wanted to see your new house.
Yeah, that is a plus.
Yeah, and it's so nice out that driving down here with the windows down and music blaring was a nice experience. I had a good time. So the last thing I want to kind of end on, just as a little more fun, just have some fun before we close. You are giving that fly the death glare.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at like legit. Like I live with my brother, and I mean, now, I'm not gonna throw him under the bus, but it's just like the house needs to be cleaned a lot more than it is, and the trash needs to be taken out. But I'm staring at like 2 or 3 flies, and they are pissing me off.
Jeez, you are like upset.
Yeah, no, don't get me started on cleaning. That I am like. Don't get me started.
All right. I love how I say we're gonna end this on a fun note, and you immediately start bitching about your brother.
Dude, that's my life. Not the bitching about my brother, but just like ruining fun notes because I find something else. I have more sad notes.
So the thing I wanted to end on, just as kind of like a fun get to know us, is how we met. Just a brief history of our friendship.
That is actually it's okay. It's somewhat interesting. Yeah. So we did meet in the school. But one thing I will say is that you're definitely a person that I kind of heard about through other friends before I ever met you.
You heard the rumors.
Like, or it happened that way, or it'd be like, oh, I'm friends with so-and-so. And, I'd mention, it's like, yeah, do you know this person, Jonah? And I'm like, yeah, no, I've known him for like 8 years. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because I was good friends with, and at that time.
Yeah.
Who you were also friends with. Those were our mutuals.
I mean,
And
I don't think I wasn't much of a friend to. Just like I never did care for him much.
Avery was.
Yeah, my brother was.
Avery was friends. But and either way.
Yeah.
Back then, you and Avery were the same person in everybody's mind.
No. Oh yeah. Because they couldn't tell the difference.
You guys were the same person.
They couldn't tell the difference, even though there's a dramatic difference.
There is a dramatic difference, but from passing glances.
Yeah. No,
And I feel like we also had a few other mutual friends that I can't really think of.
I don't want to just say their names, but
Dox people. I'll probably bleep out those other two names
there's
just for safety.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember because he was good friends with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually had a geography class with both of them.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, those were our mutuals. But we ended up meeting in it was 7th grade. It was the first time we actually like met, and we kind of started hanging out a bit at that point.
It was basically like, oh, you can play M-rated games. Okay, you're my friend now.
Yeah,
that was basically it. And
like, you could play Call of Duty. Dude, let's go. And then, of course, that was back at the times of Xbox 360 and Xbox Live. And we started playing with some of our other friends. We would play Black Ops 2 all the freaking time.
Well, and
Halo Forge.
Halo
Reach
Forge, a lot of that.
was the other one we played.
See, the thing
all
is,
the time.
had I not become friends with I don't think I would have been playing M-rated games at the time. I would have been sorry, this fly is pissing me off.
It is on your hair.
It's like a halo of flies.
It likes you.
It pisses me off. Anyway, like I swear I'm a clean person in real life. Like if the flies on,
there's flies buzzing around you.
Dude, like legit, it irks me to no end. I did take a shower today, but yeah, no, literally, because we're friends with is the reason why we started playing those games. Legit.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but I'm swatting like this
fly.
I'm
you're like talking while your hands are flying around everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Like legit, I'm ready to break that glass over there, just as a dramatic, like how annoyed I am by this. if we didn't have 5 glasses in this house, I would have broke that glass. Let me down to 4. But yeah, that was kind of it, really. And then graduated high school. And
I feel like we weren't really great friends until we went more into 9th grade. Like going into 9th grade, I feel like is when we really started to become like good friends. And then I think what cemented our friendship, and you'll probably agree with this, where like what cemented our friendship of like I'm gonna be friends with this guy for a very long time was when we went to Japan together. I feel like that was the cement.
Yeah, that was kind of like the like, okay, do I still choose to like hang out with this person, or like that was like, I don't know how you put it. You like, what do they call that? Like it was, I don't know, like tempering a blade for a very poor metaphor, but it's just like, if this blows up and turns out to be a shitty experience, then I know that it won't last. But it was good time. So I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I had a great time in Japan, and I think that's really what like kind of cemented. And we'll probably do a podcast episode about our trip from Japan.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I have a lot of funny stories.
Dude, I've wanted to make like my thoughts on Japan video. Well, ever since I went, but I never did. I went and recorded one massive thing and I deleted it. Like
same. I had a video I recorded of everything I bought in Japan.
Oh,
that I ended up just never doing.
I should have done that. That'd have been better.
Deleted it. But
dude, I got so much cool stuff.
I got a ton of cool stuff too. There's a lot of really funny stories that didn't quite make it into the videos I did on it.
Yeah.
A lot of fun experiences and funny things that happened.
Yeah. What's hard is just to display them or even keep them. Like I've bought so much things off of like Reddit, where it's just like people off Reddit, and it's like, this is such a cool thing. There's not a lot of these out there in the world, but I can't display it. It's too big. I can't put it on a bookshelf.
Yeah, I totally got that.
Yeah, but anyway, no, it's dope. But yeah, other than that, trip and kind of split ways a little bit for a little while, but and just that's how it is with college.
It was because it was my freshman year, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing.
Yeah,
and I mean, I lived 3 hours away from you guys.
Yeah,
so that was kind of rough. But I came back and saw you over like the summer and winter breaks, and this was back when Emma still lived in the area too. So like, and I feel like I saw at least one of you like every week when I was home on breaks. Then I started getting a job over the summer, and that was kind of made it really busy. And then a little something called Apex Legends came along.
Dude, no, legit. As soon as Jonah was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna start streaming," and I already mentioned this in a stream before, but like when he told me, like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna start streaming on Twitch," and I was like, dude, that's a terrible. Okay, I didn't tell him directly until
No, you
recently.
didn't.
No,
This is news to me. I've never heard this.
No, really? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
this is news to me.
I
Jeez.
always forget who I tell, but I know I told my brother this, but I was like, dude, the fact that Jonah's streaming on Twitch is such a dumb decision because the thing is, like, if you're trying to get discovered and become popular on the internet, YouTube is like the best place. There's no other place that has an algorithm that detects, random videos like that. And that's why I was like, going to Twitch, it's going to be literally, he'll be streaming forever and no one's going to watch him unless he goes and shares it to 1 million people. Anyway, that was my opinion for a while. And then one day he's just like, hey, you want to stream Apex Legends? And I had played Apex for maybe 2 weeks prior, and it was season 2. No,
It was season 2.
It might have been season 2 and a tiny bit of season 4. And that was the only Apex I played. I'm like, I liked Apex in a decent amount. And then basically from there, I was like, Apex is my favorite game of all time. I am streaming now and legit gonna play and do YouTube stuff with Jonah. But up until that point, like, we'd been kind of separate. Like, we'd always jump on calls and stuff, like, or play, voice calls or chats or parties. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Boomer talk over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was kind of the catalyst, and hence why I'm still playing Apex religiously.
Yeah, and that kind of, because we stopped doing gaming through college.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like,
Skipped all over that.
A little over a year ago. Over a year ago, we stopped doing gaming through college. I mean, the last episode went up in like October, but the last time we recorded a gaming through college episode was like back like last July. And so like that kind of ended us working together for that, and then we went through a rut. And then I started streaming because COVID hit. Oh, yeah. So all I had to do was just sit in my room by myself and play video games. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to be playing video games for 4 hours at a time anyway, I might as well just stream it. And I started streaming. And actually, like, my first few streams got a surprising number of views. I had, like, an average of, like, 4 viewers. Yeah. And then, obviously, the Shadow of the Colossus stream really that helped a lot. That really blew up. I had like 10, 12 viewers for that.
I think it's just not a lot of people playing that game at the moment.
Yeah, and that's what I need to start doing is start streaming indie games that not a lot of people are
playing.
Dude,
I'm so hyped, dude. I bought Silent Hill 2. I'm so hyped. So much money wasted, dude. I had to buy a composite to HDMI converter, $10. And then I have a HD60S Elgato. And then I bought $70 freaking Silent Hill 2 game. And they're like all just to stream Silent Hill 2. Yeah, and I'm so hyped for it though. Even though the game is like the controls suck and stuff. Yeah. But I'm not into horror games at all, really. Anyway,
back into what I was saying. I started streaming on Twitch because of COVID. Yeah. And
talk about indie games and that.
It had been so long since we played games together. So when I was doing Shadow of the Colossus, I had just gotten home. I'm like, hey, why don't you come over and do this Shadow of the Colossus stream with me. It's the final episode. I'm beating the final few Colossi. And I'm like, why don't you come stream with me? And that kind of went back, and that started our transition to becoming quote-unquote business partners again. And now, I mean, we've played Apex every night for like several months.
Like literally, I think maybe past few days are the only days we haven't played Apex.
And that's just because I was moving.
And you're right. And if there was a time we didn't play Apex, it was Fall Guys. It was just like literally like
or GTA.
Oh, that's true.
Like we were always playing. We were playing a game together every.
And it's been night. And again, that was the entire time during the come up with the podcast type thing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Then what happened was you started streaming, and then we started doing my down the rabbit hole thing. Yeah. And that kind of shifted back into us being business partners.
Yeah. No, that's one thing is if I ever quit my job to do YouTube or Twitch or whatever, I'm starting a LLC because, okay, well, if YouTube doesn't pan out, it's like, okay, well, what were you doing this entire year or 5 years? Like, well, I was, investing in my own company. And it's like, little do they know is me playing video games for the past 5 years. But, it's like, it still works out. And then you could write stuff off. But yeah, it's been really good. And we're constantly on each other's streams and stuff, so it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else or?
I think I'm good to wrap it up there. I think we've gone through a lot. We've talked about what this podcast is going to be, kind of how we made it, and that was the goal for the first episode. The next episode, don't worry, we'll get into some of the actual fun stuff. We'll get into this actual podcast. This is more I want to call this like episode 0.
Yeah, it's like a pilot episode.
Yeah, it's the pilot episode. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Yeah. Mason, where can people find you outside of this podcast?
You can find me at JD and Blackout on YouTube and Twitch as well. Those both work. That's pretty much all I want to link. I'm not gonna really I don't have much else. So.
All right, I'm the complete opposite. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/JonahTV. On Twitch, it is JTV Live. On Twitter, it's at JonahTV Official. And then on Instagram, I think it's just at jonah.lackey, which is just my name. And that's where you can find me. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, No Gen Podcast on YouTube. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you're notified when we upload the next episode. We are also going to be working on starting a clips channel of just kind of the best bits of the podcast. So if you don't have time to listen to the full episode, go over, and once that's up, you can go ahead and subscribe to that. And that's really, I think, all we want to plug. Make sure you share this podcast around too if you enjoy it. If you like listening to it just in the background, studying or driving, make sure you tell your friends. Share it around with as many people as possible, because we don't have the following to just be able to market it ourselves. We need help of word of mouth. That
and just the algorithm. We need that algorithm goodness going.
So if you watch the full video, even if you have it on mute and you just hit play and it's just playing in the background, that still counts for us as watch time.
They say you can't do that. You're not supposed to say that.
And the watch time is what helps us with the algorithm. So even if you have it on mute, I would prefer that you listen to it, but just give us those sexy watch time minutes, and that will help with the algorithm. And that's really all I want to say. Thank you guys so much for listening. Anything you want to add, Mason?
Nope, that's it, really.
All right. Well, with that, I will go ahead and close out, and I will see you guys. We will talk to you guys next time on the official first episode of No Gen Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening.